Hi, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about woks. So let's get started. If you look kind of across my kitchen here, you'll see that we have a number of woks. I think the first thing I'll talk about will be the different sizes of woks that you can get. So we'll start with the smallest. That kind of makes sense. This is like an 8-inch wok. And this is good for, this is made of stainless steel. This is good for probably 1 or maybe 2 people at the most. And it comes with a cover. I got that online. And the next step up is this one here. And this is a 9-inch wok. This one's cast iron, which is very nice. And I got this also online. Cast iron is great because it holds the heat. We'll talk about what it's sitting on in a minute. Here's a 12-inch wok. This one's good. This one's definitely good for like 3 to 4 people. And this one is actually a copper one, a copper wok. Copper is, it conducts very well, but they need to be sandwiched with a denser metal so that you don't get hot spots. But and I believe this one is actually, this is not a Chinese wok. This is an Indian wok. So woks were invented in China about 2,000 years ago, and then they kind of migrated out from there along with stir fry. Then after that, you have the 14-inch woks, and that would be a family-size wok. So here's a nice one. This is a Western-style wok. It has a single handle. This one's nice in that it has a hollow handle, so it stays nice and cool. This is carbon steel. It's not super heavy, and this is kind of a hybrid design. Most kind of official woks, they have a really rounded bottom. This one it's rounded, but it's got a little bit of a flat bottom there. And I'll talk about that in a minute as well. Here is a different style wok. This is a heavier wok, and this is a southern style wok, a Cantonese wok. And I'll talk about why it looks like that. But you'll see that its profile it's perfectly rounded on the bottom. If you have a choice of the handles, so sometimes the handles are spot welded on, like these. If you can get a wok that has riveted handles, they're less likely to come loose. And so this is a Western style wok with a rounded bottom, pretty heavy duty carbon steel. And here's another, this is a really old Cantonese wok. These handles in China, this would be called a 2-eared wok. So you can see they kind of look like ears. So if you have a rounded wok, you'll notice that all my rounded woks, they came with a ring so that it can be held steady. And when you use the ring, you want to use it with the wider part of the ring up so that the bottom of the wok is close to the flame source. All right, so let's see. I showed you a stainless steel one, all right, and say we'll look at, here's, I think this is like it might be a 28-inch wok, and this one would be used outdoors or over a commercial stove, and this would be for a large group. You would do the stir frying in the middle, and then you would move the ingredients that are cooked off to the side where people could help themselves. So this one's kind of cool. Very heavy, carbon steel, great fun at a picnic. So let's see. Let's talk a little bit about cooking with the wok. So ideally, gas is the best choice. If you don't have a gas stove, you only have an electric stove, what you would want to do is you would want to use a cast iron wok. And the reason you would do that is that cast iron is thick enough so that the bottom of the wok is flat. So it would sit right on the burner. All right, and the inside could be rounded because it's thicker. Let me talk about this. So this is very cool. This is an induction heater, and it works by magnetism. So as long as you're using cast iron or clad stainless steel that has a ferrous metal in it, once you put that on there, I'm not going to do it now, that will heat up, and it will only heat up where the metal is touching. So this whole plate won't heat up, just that center part. And if I had a bigger pan or a bigger wok, it would heat that up, and it would heat it up instantly, which is kind of cool. And this surface doesn't get hot. The only thing that gets hot is the wok. Again, if you don't have a gas stove, these are great to use. This is basically a portable gas burner, and they're very quick and very hot, just like that. Just shut that right down. And when I'm on the road cooking, or if I'm doing car camping, I'll use this, and that, of course, that's very fast as well. The Indian wok has a flat bottom, so it works well on there. Now, if you happen to have one of those General Electric type stoves that has the coil burners, you can actually, I don't know if you can still find them, but a while back I found an electric burner that was designed for a wok. This is bowl shaped. You just basically unplug the burner that's on the coil stove, and you can plug this right in, and it's designed so that the wok will fit right inside this, so there'd be a direct contact if you wanted to use a round bottom wok. You can use flat bottom woks, it's just that you're going to need more oil, because the flat bottom, you want to cover that bottom. With the round bottom wok, you can use very little oil because the bottom actually comes to a point, if you're kind of thinking geometrically. All right. So let's pretend that you got a wok at the store, and you want to season it. You always want to season your wok. What that means is you're going to kind of put on the original non-stick covering. So what you'll do is you'll put in just a touch of oil into the wok. And I use avocado oil because avocado oil will get to 500 degrees before it breaks down. So you don't want to put a lot in there. You just want to be able to lightly coat the wok. So here it is, and we'll just paint that right on, just like that. We're going to pretend, this is not brand new, but we'll pretend that it's new. If it's new, right out of the box, you're going to want to wash it out with a scrubby pad and some soap and water. But that's going to be the last time you use soap, because as you can imagine, soap will take off the oil. So we'll turn that over, and we'll wipe the other side as well. And you don't want this to be runny, because what we're going to do is we're going to put this upside down in the oven at 350 degrees, and we're going to bake it basically. We're going to bake the oil onto the wok. Now, if you have wooden parts that you can't take off, so if you look over here, this wok, which is older, it has a wooden handle. But this wooden handle, if I unscrew this bolt here, that handle would come right off. But in the case of this wok, you can't do that. You can't take this handle off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a wet paper towel. So I've soaked this paper towel, and I'm going to wrap the wet paper towel right around that wooden handle, and then I'm going to wrap the wooden handle with foil, just like that. All right, so I have preheated the oven to 350 degrees. I've coated my new wok. And by the way, if you have an old wok that you let get rusty, you can start all over again, scrub it out, use a Brillo, whatever you want to do to get it smooth. It doesn't have to be shiny, but just get it smooth. Then you can re-oil it. You can wrap the handles. And then, so you're going to want to put this on a cookie sheet, because if the oil gets thin and runs, you don't want it to run into your stove. Also, you want it upside down so that the oil, as it thins, doesn't gather in the bottom of the wok. So there we go. We're going to bake the wok, and we're going to let that bake for about 20 minutes, and then we'll let it cool off. So that's how you would season your wok. Now, the thing about the cast iron is a lot of cast iron, you would treat it the same way as the carbon steel. This wok, which is a really nice wok, is made by Lodge, which is an American cast iron cookware company. It's interesting, it's fun, it's ironic that the best wok, Chinese wok, is actually made by an American company, made in the United States. So Lodge pre-seasons their cast iron. So what they do is they make it at the foundry, they heat it up, they dip it in oil, they wipe it down, and then they bake it. So you wouldn't want to soap and scrub a Lodge wok before you use it. So just kind of keep that in mind. All right. So let's so I'm going to use gas here. Let's talk very quickly about some utensils for the wok. You want something to stir with, and I just use this kind of plastic spatula. If you want to use a spoon, and the thing that's kind of nice is that it doesn't have to be necessarily a non-scratching utensil. You'll also want to use, this is called a spider, and this is a way to get things out of the wok, and especially if you're deep frying in the wok, you would use this to kind of remove. So if you're doing like egg rolls or wontons, you're deep frying them, you would use this to get that out. All right, so some tongs. So this would be good if you had egg rolls and you wanted to turn them, or if you had larger pieces of meat or vegetables, you could use these to turn them as well. And I always have a pair of chopsticks just in case I want to taste test. So let's see, I'm trying to think, is there anything else that I should tell you? Okay, you'll notice that there are some other things in addition to the wok. I had mentioned stir frying, and this moon rack, half moon rack, is great. And they come in different sizes, so if you have a different size wok. But if I were deep frying here, I would be able to take my, let's say my crab rangoons, and I could take them when they're done frying, I put them up here, and they would drain back into the oil, which is great, but also they would stay warm here. So it's kind of like a draining and warming rack, which is kind of fun. This is a steaming rack. So what I could do if I were making steamed dumplings or steaming fish, what I could do is I'd put about an inch or so of water in the bottom of the wok, bring that to a boil. I would drop this in, and then I could just put my fish right here to steam. And of course I would need a cover. And what's nice about the wok cover is, especially if you have a choice, get a domed one, because what will happen is the steam will come up and it will run down the sides and back into the wok. If you have a flat top cover, it'll tend to kind of drop into the food, so you prefer not to do that. So there's a steamer. Here's another type of steamer. You've probably seen these. It's a folding steamer, but this would allow you to use different size pots and pans, so you wouldn't have to just use it in the wok. So if I wanted to put this, into a 3-quart saucepan, I could drop that in there and put vegetables and things like that. Or I could use it in the wok, put a big plate on top of that, and steam fish there as well. Let's see, is there anything else? I think I've talked all about the woks. Remember, your best choice would be carbon steel or cast iron, and both of those you would want to season. This one here is stainless steel with kind of a copper bottom. It's very lightweight. If I had a choice and I could only have one, this would not be one of the ones. If I really could only have one wok, it would be the cast iron wok, and then after that it would be the carbon steel wok. All right, so using the wok, what you want to do, the basic rule in cooking with a wok is hot wok, cool oil, not cold oil, but cool oil. So you want to heat your wok up until it's just starting to smoke. If you don't want to wait for it to smoke, what you can do is you'll put in maybe a tablespoon of oil, and you'll look for that oil to shimmer. All right, and you can kind of see that's starting to do that. By the way, I preheated this cast iron wok, so it's already hot. But I can see a little bit of smoke coming off, but mostly what I can do is I can see that the oil is beginning to move around. All right, so, and this is the avocado oil, so it's very, very robust oil. So what we want to do is we want to flavor our oil, and one way to do that is to take aromatics like ginger and garlic and put those in and lightly brown them. You can also do that with onions. So today what I'm going to do is we're going to put in some onions really quickly, and that should sizzle. And that sizzling noise is what you want when you're stir frying. All right. So here we go. I'm going to turn the fan on a little bit just so we don't start that, right. All right. So as soon as those onions start to brown a little bit, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to put in some meat. And what I'm using here is thin cut ribeye. And you'll see that ribeye has just a little bit of fat in there. And what I like to say is FAT is an acronym for flavor and taste. So the onions are browning. That steak is searing very quickly. There we go. So, you know, about a minute or so. And again, if you like it more done, leave it in a little bit longer. And then I'm going to put in one more flavoring. And I'm going to use, this is one of my favorites. It's Trader Joe's Everyday Seasoning. And then we'll put in some peppers. And you can still hear that sizzling noise, which is what you want to maintain. So some people ask, oh, can I use, if I don't have a wok, can I use something else? The answer is sure you can. You could use a large fry pan, and the heavier the fry pan, the better. All right, so my onions are nicely caramelized. The meat's definitely medium rare. And I've put in a couple of baby bok choy. And you'll see that this is a pretty dry process. All right, I haven't added any other liquid. And the only time you're going to really add a significant amount of liquid in a stir fry is at the very end. All right, and because this is cast iron, I can shut this down. It's going to continue to heat. My peppers are slightly charred now. That was pretty quick. And I'm going to use a ready-made sauce. This is oyster sauce, which is literally cooked down oysters with some other seasonings. Oyster sauce was actually was discovered or invented in the 1800s by a guy named Lee, and he had a food stand, and in his food stand he sold oyster stew. And what happened one day is he forgot about his stew, and when he came back it was all cooked down into this brown thick sauce, and instead of throwing it away, he tasted it, and he really liked what it tasted like, so he started bottling it, and it actually was the start of the company called Lee Kum Kee, which is this company here. And Lee Kum Kee is one of the largest sauce companies in the world now. So this large company was started by mistake, or as a result of a mistake. So there's our stir fry. So it's basically beef and vegetable with oyster sauce. And that oyster sauce forms a really nice little glaze as well. So I've shut that off. So let's, I'm going to let this kind of rest here a little bit. I've got some rice cooking here. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to just show you the, I know it's a little early, but let's take a look at our wok that's cooking in the oven. There we go. And so the oil has started to bake on to the wok. And this part here, it's hot, but it's not going to burn the wood because that wood is covered and it's got water in it. What you can do, if you want, especially on a new wok, is you can let this cool off, and then you can put on another coat. So it's almost like, you know, when you put multiple coats of shellac or varnish or something like that. As long as you let it cool off and dry in between, you can put on another layer and bake that on. But if you just use it and then add, you know, rub it down with oil before you put it away and use it the next time, you'll eventually get that layer buildup. It just depends on how quickly you want to do it. So I'm going to turn this upside down again and let this just continue. And now, I think what we'll do is eat, which is my favorite thing to do. I've already cooked up a little bit of rice here for myself. And this is Joan's favorite rice. This is basmati rice, which is a long grain Indian rice, which is, it's actually an aromatic rice. It does smell because they have a nice scent to it. All right, and here's our beef. There we go. And now let's have a taste. Of course it's hot. Yum. So there you have it. How to pick a wok, how to prepare it. Oh, when you're done with the wok, remember, don't use soap on it. All you need to do is eat it all, or put it in a leftover dish, then just rinse it with hot water. And that hot water will soften up the food, and as long as there's a good coating of oil on there, that food will slide right off. You can, if you need to, you can use a non-stick scrubby pad to do that, to clean it off. Just don't use soap, and then just re-oil it. What I'll do sometimes is I'll wash my wok off, and then I'll put it back on the burner and heat it up to make sure that all the water gets driven away. If you put the wok away wet, because of its shape, the water will collect at the bottom, and if it sits there, it'll rust, and you'll just have to start again. So the other good thing about woks is that you can, they're very collectible. No, I shouldn't say that. You can store them easily because they nest pretty nicely. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.